Tremendous here, and I got another book review here for you. This is part 2 of the Persolus Race, Volume 1, a collection of short stories. This one is called The Snake in Eden. It's short story 2 of 16, written by Josh Whittle. It is still science fiction. It was still published on August 26, 2021, and this one was about 31 pages. This is, like I said, it's part of a series that I'm doing with this book since it's a collection of short stories. I don't want to try to do it all at once because it's like 500 pages of 16 different short stories, and I'll forget a lot between then and now if I try to do it all in the same review. Also, that review would be literally like 3-4 hours long, and nobody wants to sit through that. So sit back, relax, and let's get to the review. Going to start off with the spoiler-free side. I may make some small spoilers. I may let a few things leak. I apologize in advance. It shouldn't ruin the story, but just like with every review, please go and check it out yourself. The link to it will be in the description below. I want you to check it out. I don't want you to just necessarily take my opinion of it as you know, written in stone. Go check it out, come back, and let's talk about it in the comment section. More than happy to have a conversation. So the main character in this book is Mary Jo Scout Amaya, and it's a little weird because the book, well, we'll get into that in a minute, but the plot is basically an ex-military team full of cybernetics and everything like that. The year is 2550, and an ex-military team full of cybernetics and know-how and gusto and all that stuff have been hired by somebody to go, or maybe they're just taking it on for themselves. It's never really discussed, but they're going in. They're going to infiltrate an evil corporation in order to get proof that they've been killing intelligent life during the terraforming things for fun, profit, and resources. This former military team, for some reason, well, it is kind of explained. They hire on Mary Jo Amaya, or Scout is how they refer to her, because she's got no cybernetics in her at all. They call her a clean skin or something like that, which I thought was pretty clever. I like that term. Basically, she's got no cybernetics. Everybody else does. It's very common. It's like clothes. You know, everybody wears clothes. Well, Scout doesn't wear clothes. She does, but she doesn't wear cybernetics. She's got none installed in her whatsoever. We'll get to that. For some reason, they needed her to do this job. They say it's because she has no cybernetics, but we'll get into that a little bit more in the spoiler review section. But this one is it's odd because it doesn't really make sense why they needed her, other than the fact that she turns out to be Janet Bourne. I mean, like I said, we'll get to that in just a second. Again, the cover, nothing wrong with the cover whatsoever. Just like I said in the last review, this would catch your attention. It definitely looks older, science fiction-y video game style, but it works. The art, the color, the background, it catches your attention, and it definitely coincides with the stories contained inside. No issue with the cover whatsoever. Editing on this one, the first few pages of this story, the editing is fine. There's no issue whatsoever. The dialogue, the writing is fine. And as you continue out throughout the story, it's just 31 pages, but by the time you get to like the 10th page, I notice a serious drop-off in the quality of the editing, the writing, run-on sentences, the dialogue becomes stilted. It's very odd. It's like the editor lost interest part of the way through this particular story. It was disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I was disappointed. The editing, the story starts out really strong. I was really enjoying it, and then it deteriorates as you go on. The editing needs, again, I said it in the last one, this needs a professional editor that was outside of their group of writers to go over everything, because you need that perspective. You need that fresh, you know, unbiased perspective when it comes to editing. I'm sorry, but this book just proves that. The story flow works. No issue with the story flow. It's constant moving. The action is really good. There's, you know, a writing style that's a little bit different, but not bad or anything. It's good. I have no issue with the story flow. I didn't catch a whole lot of problems with it or anything. Nothing that ruined the story or changed the quality. It was just the overall story. There were some parts of it that irked me, and there's some transitions. I didn't like the way One paragraph I would be in Scout's perspective, and then the very next paragraph with no transition, now I'm getting the perspective of who she's fighting or who she's interacting with. It was jarring. There needs to be better transitions between the two if you're going to change perspective, especially if I'm getting third person perspective of Scout and then first person perspective of whoever it is they're interacting with, or vice versa. It gets very confusing and stuff like that. So while the overall story flow was pretty good, the feel and everything, just, it was not good. This was as like I said, it started out really strong, and then as you got further into the story, it got, without trying to be a jerk, it got lazy. I don't know how else to put it. I was excited. This story started with real promise, and it ended in disappointment. And I'll get to that in just a second. The pros to this book, like I've already kind of talked about, starts off really promising. The beginning, when you're kind of getting the bad guys' perspective, and they're talking about the ex-military team that they seem to know is coming. It's good. Like the dialogue is good, the editing is good, the story flow, the transitions, the perspectives, it's all good. And then as you go through the book, it's like I hate to say it like this, but it's like the author got lazy, got bored, or just wanted to get it done, and just threw whatever assortment of verbs they could at the page, and it was kind of a letdown. I was bummed out a little bit, because what started off as a really promising story ended in disappointment. The tech is very cool. It is 2550. And the cybernetics and stuff like that is cool. The technology, the weapons that they use are kind of cool. It does have a lot of 2010 technology in it still too. Like 530 years in the future, we're still using elevators. There's still taxis. There's there's still money that you pay apparently out of your pocket. It's like the idea of being hundreds of years in the future is there, but they don't utilize it, they don't capitalize on that. I mean, just think about the technology that was used 100 years ago compared to today. I mean, we're talking like 1920s technology, and compared to today, and imagine if we were still doing the stuff from like the 1920s. It's not going to happen. 500 years from now, I promise you, the computer that you're watching this on, or the cell phone, or the tablet, or anything, that's not going to exist the way it exists. That's one of the issues with writing sci-fi when you're hundreds of years in the future. Unless you say something or set the foundation of your world as, we use old tech because new tech is dangerous, or there was a AI war or something to explain why you're using old tech still and why this stuff hasn't been updated. Like taxis, for example. Taxis are quickly becoming a thing of the past with things like Lyft and Uber. So in 500 years, they're still a thing? Really? Explain that. Even, I know it's a short story, but it just takes you out of the fantasy, you know? It's like, why are there taxis? What's going on with this? There's a lot of really cool tech in here, and then there's a lot of vintage stuff that, I'm sorry, if it's still around in 500 years, it's because we are recovering from World War 12 or something like that. You need to explain that, because it eats at me a lot. There's no way. The ex-military team is promising at first. Like, they seem to have a plan. They're all badass. They all have their different niches and things that they're doing. They all have a role to play. And then they put their plan into action and immediately throw it away for no reason whatsoever. And you don't really understand what the plan was. Like, at first it seemed like stealth. They go and they're jumping from one building to another, and it's like, okay, cool, let's go. And then, no, there was no reason for stealth. I mean, they literally could have just blown a hole in the wall with a rocket launcher and flown in through the window. They kill everybody. It's so weird the way they go from stealth to kill everybody back to a weird form of stealth. And it's all over the place. It's a bad plan, and not everybody in the military is great at tactics and strategy. I'll give you that, but this team was set up and introduced like maybe they had some experience at it. One of them is heavily decorated and a lot of honors. Another one is just a brute force shock troop, and then their leader is supposed to be some sort of super genius, and no, this was very rudimentary. First time ever playing StarCraft level strategy, and it was disappointing. Another small but really disappointing error, because like I said, it started off really strong, and it was just one big disappointment after the other. Cons, this story needs better editing for all the reasons I've already discussed. I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse. The dialogue started off strong. I mean, really well crafted, back and forth between the characters, the main bad guy. You get that sinister feel from him without even knowing who he is, just what they're talking about. It's like, this is good. I was really excited when I started reading the story. And then it gets lazy, it gets stilted, it gets repetitive, it gets one-dimensional. It's bad. It really the further you read into this story, the worse the dialogue gets, and I don't like it. It went from being able to determine individuals to everybody became a one-dimensional cardboard cutout NPC. It was really too bad. I really hope the author goes back and fixes that, because this is a great story is here. It's almost like they lost interest, or it kind of felt like a deadline was coming up and they had to finish this thing really, really quickly. Like I said before, the ex-military team is really incompetent, ridiculously incompetent. They go and they're trying to do this clandestine thing, which turned into a run and gun, which turns back into a stealth-ish thing, and then they get attacked by a ship. One of their members gets quote-unquote killed, and they run back to their leader's apartment to hide out. You want to take a guess what happens? Yeah, you wouldn't have to guess very hard. It's really disappointing, and the another issue is the assassins on the corporation side are incredibly good at their job, incredibly efficient, except for when it comes to taking out Scout. And we'll get more into that in the spoiler-rich side, but her plot armor is 14 feet thick. I don't mind telling you. She gets hurt. She gets into some... Keep in mind, Scout is a young woman with no cybernetic enhancements whatsoever, and she doesn't seem to have any combat experience. No real combat experience. For example, when she sees some of her teammates get killed, she has an emotional response that is normal for someone who's not been in those situations before. She has a very realistic, and I give the author full props for that. Scout has very realistic reactions to seeing someone blown away in front of them. I mean, quite literally, somebody's head gets exploded right in front of her, and she gets coated in their gore, and she freaks out, which is the correct response that somebody who's not been exposed to something like that before would have. The military, the ex-military people, they handle it like you would expect, and it's perfect. But later on, Scout all of a sudden has hand-to-hand combat with cybernetically enhanced male assassins, and they literally punch her in the face and gouge her eyes with their cybernetic enhancements, and she somehow is able to defeat them in hand-to-hand combat, and there's no injury. Her face doesn't get swollen, her eyes, there's nothing wrong with her sight, it doesn't hurt her stamina. I mean, there's adrenaline, and then there's BS plot armor, and this crossed that line aggressively. It's also, there's some problem in the storytelling about the environments that you find yourself in. 1 minute, Scout is in an office complex. She took an elevator to go all the way up to this office complex. The next minute, she's shooting out a window to jump out of it, to shoot out the glass roof of an elevator, to fall into it, no problem, in order to escape. You have no concept of location, environment, or anything like that. You have no idea how Scout knew the elevator would be there. Again, 14-foot thick plot armor. It was very frustrating and a little insulting. I'm not going to lie to you. You don't want to insult your reader, and there was a few times this story felt insulting. It's not great. The perspective changes, like I said earlier, are sudden, jarring, and there's no transition. 1 minute you're sitting there and Scout's fighting off an assassin, and you're getting her first person's perspective. The very next paragraph, with no transition whatsoever, your first person perspective of the assassin that Scout is fighting. I had to go back and reread paragraphs quite a few times during this story just to make sure I understood what the heck was going on, because I got confused. And I read a lot of books. My reading comprehension isn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's like expert levels or anything, but the transitions were really bad. And that happens worse and worse the further along in the story you go. At the beginning, they were great. Beautiful transitions, no problem with the perspective changes, we're able to follow. There's even like the little ... to show that time passes and stuff. And then towards the end, the author just threw that all out and was just like, here you go, here's my word salad, and good luck digesting it. I don't care. It was disappointing. The author can't seem to decide what Scout's skill set is. 1 minute she's like a ghost, nobody knows who she is. Next minute she's a innocent kind of hacker. She doesn't have cybernetics in her, but she uses tools that the author refers to as cybernetics, but they're not. Like, she has a contact lens that she puts into her eye in order to hack things. But my question is, if that's all she needed to do, why couldn't anyone use that contact lens? Why did they need her? She's, the next minute she's freaking out every time people get killed around her. She's worried about civilians. And the next minute she's literally shooting over her shoulder, killing civilians, robbing them. It's super weird. And she's going toe to toe with cybernetically enhanced assassins that she's able to best every single time. Who is Scout? Like, that is never really defined in this. Everyone else is defined, but Scout is this wild card and her skills and talents and experiences change depending on whatever scenario the author throws her into. It's very confusing and does not coincide at all with logic or reason. And there's a plot twist in this that's supposed to be a big, reveal or whatever, but honestly, the way it's implemented, the way it's put in, I rolled my eyes. Just like, really? This? So again, it really felt like there was a deadline or something like that this author was encroaching on and just had to throw something together at the last minute. What started as a very obvious passion project turned into a burden very quickly, and that's too bad. I hope it gets remade because there's a really good story to be told here. So for the rating on this one, I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. The reason for that is because I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it, and I did enjoy parts of it. The tech is awesome. The fights are pretty cool. There's a story here. There is a solid story in here. I would say at a minimum there's a 4-star story in here. It's just, it felt like as the story went on, the author rushed it. Like I said, I think there was a deadline. Like, they owed this story to the group, and they just kind of, as quick as they could, threw it together without any real thought or proofreading or outline or anything like that. And it's disappointing because the potential is here. The foundation is here. I think if they go back, redo this, redo the story with some more passion and stuff like that, and really think about what the stories are trying to tell, this could easily be a 4-star minimum story, possibly even a 5. But for right now, while I didn't hate it, I don't think it's an average story, but it's right on the cusp. It needs some work, it needs some rewrites, but there's a lot of promise here. I really hope the author goes back and fixes that. So that's it for the spoiler-free review. If you don't want to see or hear any spoilers, because I'm going to get into detail next, please stop. Please go and get the book. The link to it will be in the description below. Check it out and come back and let me know what you think. I'd love to have a conversation about this in the comment section. All right, here's the spoiler-filled section. So this is your last chance to hit stop. All right, you're still here, so let's get to it. So it starts off actually, the CEO of the evil corporation is looking at a report that has the ex-military team that's going to be infiltrating him soon, as well as Scout, the unknown ghost, but of course, they still have her. It shows her, like, in their records that she's 107 years old, has no cybernetics implanted in her whatsoever, and that's all they know. So they know this team is coming after them. And what ends up happening is Ocean is part of their team, and she's got these cybernetics in her that allowed them to mind control her, which means the CEO could have turned her on at any minute, had her kill the team, and not allowed anything to happen. It makes no sense at all why they allowed this to occur whatsoever. The story starts off with the CEO knowing they are going to infiltrate them because this ex-military team is trying to find proof that they are killing intelligent life on all these different planets as they explore them in order to exploit the planet for profit, sale, and fun. It's insane that the CEO of this corporation would allow them to even get close to his building where these secrets are kept, knowing that all he had to do, literally all he has to do, is flip the switch on Ocean and have her kill everyone in the party. She wouldn't even have to remember it from the way these cybernetics work. He could just erase her memory afterwards like it never happened. But no, instead of doing that, this genius CEO allows them to infiltrate them. So the ex-military team is infiltrating them. They're on a building adjacent to the high-rise building that they're going to infiltrate in order to find, to set off their little attack or whatever. And the problem with all this is they get away with it. Like they start off stealth. They jump off one building onto another, a la Mission Impossible or Fast and Furious 12, because family. But they go in. They kind of like parachute over. Scout does it first, and then this other guy, the shock trooper Ben or whatever, he goes flying over there, and they infiltrate this place. It's super weird though because it's supposed to be stealthy, and the first thing Scout does is she puts det cord on the windows in a big X. People will notice that. There's no stealth there, and it's the year 2550. Why are we still using det cord? Really in 2550, if I don't have some sort of like stick of gum type of stuff that I can slam on the window, again, a la Mission Impossible, why are we in the future? Like, why can't this story all be set in the year 2100? That would be better. But it's 530 years in the future, and we're still using det cord. So she's got a backpack full of it, and she puts an X on this big skyrise window because eventually she's going to have to blow out this window. It seems a little extreme for a high-rise window, two big strips of det cord, but hey, you know what? The bigger the explosion, the better, right? Why not? So they get in. They're walking around the ledge of this building, outside the ledge, in order to stealth their way through. Why there's a ledge big enough for them to be all sneaky on, I have no idea, but hey, it's 500 years in the future. Architecture is a lot different then, I guess. They sneak around, and their shock trooper buddy decides that stealth is for amateurs, is for casuals, and he blows away 2 guards, no problem. No silencer, nothing, just blows away 2 guards, and then they find a fire escape to pick a lock. They pick the lock to the fire escape and get in. Sure, whatever. They get in. Scout starts using her contact hacking device, which again, I don't understand why she needed to be here. Her lack of cybernetics means nothing because Ben's got cybernetics and he's right there next to her the entire time. So the problem is the building can detect cybernetics and will set off an alarm, which is weird because everybody has cybernetics, so why would that be useful at all? But apparently it can tell friend or foe. And so the building, they're throwing EMP grenades, and they call them micro explosion EMP grenades, and a bunch of chaff flies out like foil or something like that. And it gets all over them. I guess cancer's not an issue in 500 years, which I could believe. And but the EMP is selective. Like sometimes it'll affect certain things, and most of the time, if it doesn't seem to affect the computers or whatever, Scout is able to continue to hack them. It doesn't seem to short circuit her eyewear or anything like that. The shock trooper's cybernetics, when it gets hit by an EMP, all he has to do is open it up, swap out some card, and it works again, no problem. So EMPs in the future are actually pretty inconsequential. Like, you were able to fix it, no problem. It breaks their guns, but then their guns start working again. It's very odd. It's very odd. Like EMP, I don't think works quite well in the future. Maybe it's a solar flare thing. I don't know, but it's really frustrating because an EMP, micro or not, two lines of dialogue would have fixed that. Oh, those are the EMPs that we can that only go that are friend or foe, right? Like they know not to affect our equipment. Yeah, they know not to affect our equipment. Did you have it programmed to make sure that it won't affect the computers we got to hack or any of those systems? Yep, it's already been programmed in. Boom, there you go. Now you can throw EMPs all willy-nilly and have a blast with it, and all the enemy stuff can be shut down, and your stuff doesn't have to be worried about. But nope. Nope, nothing like that whatsoever. Just understand that EMPs work the way the author wants them to work, and it's frustrating. It's like a grenade that you throw inside of a group of people, and it only takes out the bad guys, and all the good guys just hide behind their plot armor. It's really frustrating. So they get what they want. There's a barge, a literal security barge, pulls up to this window and starts shooting at everybody. It misses everybody. They're able to detonate the window with the det cord of awesomeness, and they jump out of the window and they parasail to safety. While they're doing that, Ocean is this blue-haired vixen sniper lady, and she's dating the guy Link, who is their mastermind, who is their leader. And these ex-military, individuals, when they meet each other just before the mission starts, start making out like teenagers on a hormone bender. It's super awkward, super weird. I'll give the author this: the scout character kind of looks away to give them privacy, but the shock trooper is jealous because, of course, he's got a thing for the girl on the team, and he's staring daggers at them while they're literally going at each other like they're juniors in high school, finally finding a secluded place to get their hormones on. It's immature, unprofessional, stupid. I mean, really, really stupid. I really didn't like this part of the story because it adds nothing to it, and it's juvenile. You're writing a book for adults. Grow up. No, two ex-military individuals about to do a clandestine mission like this are not going to start, wrestling with their tongues in the middle of this, especially in front of other people. It's super weird. Grow up. Ocean gets killed in this. It's actually kind of a cool scene. A security barge pulls up, sees her, and unloads death on her. There's an explosion. She screams into the mic, and the team is upset. Scout is upset. She breaks down and starts crying. The shock trooper guy responds accordingly. He picks her up and gives her a hug, tells her it's going to be okay, but we got to move, we got to go. That was cool. Like the military people staying on mission when the civilian scout is not able to because a friend of hers just got killed right in front of her eyes. I really liked the way the author did that. I thought that was great, and really enjoyed that part. The emotion was conveyed very well. Not only from the way the shock trooper was obviously hurt by her death, but knew he had to keep going, and the way the scout, who was not military trained, or at least it doesn't say she is, breaks down and is upset because her friend just got killed in front of her. Very cool, very powerful scene. What ruins that is that the team is able to get out of there, and instead of going to a safe house or splitting up and going to their different bunker down positions or anything like that, they converge on their team leader's apartment and they hide out there. What the hell? I mean, it is the year 2550. They all have cybernetics that can be traced. They set off the alarms. They know who it was. They know that the corporation knows who it is. But nope. They immediately go back to Link's apartment, who was obviously had the apartment registered in his name, social security number, or whatever identifying information they use in 2550. Where Scout starts digging through the information they found, and they find it. They find the proof that this evil corporation's been killing intelligent life in the universe in order to control the planets, make a profit, and honestly, it seems like they're having a lot of fun doing it. Which, I have two problems with this. Number one, that doesn't make any sense. If you found evidence of life, that would be worth more than any planet could be. I don't care if you find unobtainium on this planet. Finding evidence of primitive intelligent life, that would be worth gazillions of dollars to researchers, humanity. Everybody and their brother would want to pay that. Not only, and every CEO of every single business ever created, even the most incompetent CEO on the planet would recognize that as a profitable endeavor if they found proof of intelligent alien life on another planet. Ask any CEO. There's not one that would say, yeah, kill them off so we can terraform the planet. Not a chance in hell. So the fact that they're doing this is ludicrous in order to get to the resources or terraform the planet so that we can inhabit it. Ridiculous notion. But that's what they find. They find tons of proof, and apparently they've been finding tons of intelligent life all over the universe. The problem with that is the whole premise of this book, the prologue, the foreword, and everything like that says, what if humanity searched the cosmos and never found intelligent life? So it goes against the whole spirit of this book and the way the stories are supposed to be put in there. So it's a disconnect. I don't like it at all. I mean, I get it why the story has it in there, but that's not what this book was supposed to be about. It's not the subject. It's like if all of a sudden, instead of a science fiction book, we got a book about historical fiction. It doesn't make any sense to switch like that, and that should have been caught. That should have been removed. They needed a better premise. Maybe an environmental one instead. You know, they're doing experiments with psychedelic drugs on these planets on the colonists. Unsuspecting would have been just as good and fit more into the story than we have found a bunch of intelligent life. We've just been killing it off because we thought the pennies we'd make off of the resources or selling, land on this planet was better than all the other stuff. Not only that, but when you're on the planet, especially the colonized ones, they'd find the fossils, they'd find the proof. That's exactly what they're doing on Mars right now. They're looking for proof of life. And if they found that on that planet, which somebody would have by now, it would have raised so many questions. It would have been bad. So, like I said, the premise of this really just irritates me. So, like I said, they're back in the leader's apartment going through all these documents. They have the proof. They have what they came for. And they had no plan on what to do with it. None. They thought maybe we'll talk to a reporter. How is that your plan? We'll send it over to CNN. Why? If CNN, and it's a state-run government media thing that's stated in the story, if they take this story, all they're going to do is they're going to protect that information, and they're going to turn you in, and you're going to go into a meat grinder if you're lucky. They're going to kill you off, and that's going to be the end of it. So the whole cockamamie plan was break in, get proof, and then hopefully give it to Fox News and hope they run with it and hope that once it's out there, somebody does something about it? What a stupid, asinine plan with absolutely no follow-through. The plan is flawed from beginning to end, and it aggravates me. This story deserves better. So, of course, the corporation sends in a strike team to kill the ex-military people in broad daylight in this apartment complex that they're taking out. They blow up, and it's not subtle. They don't send somebody in with a silenced weapon or anything. They blow open the wall. Which was awesome. I gotta admit, that was awesome. The shock trooper guy gets obliterated. Scout gets drenched in gore again because she seems to be a magnet for it. And it's hilarious. So Link, they're trying to get out of there, and this barge, after blowing open the wall to his apartment, is just unleashing fury on these people, just shooting everything they've got. Link gets killed. He gets his ear blown off, and then his head explodes right as he's trying to carry Scout out of the apartment. She freaks out. His corpse falls on her. She freaks out, and 100% exactly the reaction she should have had. It was wonderful. And then something switches on in Scout. Not that it's written, but all of a sudden she becomes Black Widow, Jason Bourne, and John Wick all combined into one with a healthy dose of Mary Sue. And yeah, she's just able to, they can't kill her. She's in the hallway where where a whole bunch of the apartment, tenants and stuff like that are running for their lives in a hallway. And this sniper with cybernetic enhanced stuff that has locked on to Scout. It says that in the book. It locked on to Scout. He fires into this hallway trying to kill her, kills everyone around her. She's stuck in a pile of corpses, drowning. This is in the book. This is in the story. Drowning in the gore, moving, trying to get away with the cybernetic assassin that's locked onto her, and she gets away. He does not realize that she has escaped. I don't get it. Again, 14-foot thick plot armor. The assassin jumps down, runs into the hallway to ensure that all the targets are dead, realizes Scout got away, although he was locked onto her the whole time. It literally says, once locked on, a cybernetic targeting system will not lose tracking. And it loses tracking impressively quick. He had no idea she had gotten away until he saw a pile of vomit and a handprint. That is how the assassin knew that Scout had gotten away, which, okay, again, whatever. It is what it is. It's a short story. He goes after her. He ends up getting into a fight with her, a hand-to-hand fight. He punches her multiple times in the face. This is a young woman with no cybernetic implants, okay? The cybernetically enhanced super assassin, not only does he punch her in the face multiple times, he gouges her eyes. Not completely out, but he gouges her eyes with his thumbs. And she's able to do some sort of ninja stuff where she gets an arm bar on him from the prone. The guy's on top of her, and she's able to outmaneuver, out-strengthen this guy, not cybernetically enhanced at all, get around him, break his grip on her throat, face, and all that stuff after she's been pummeled multiple times, and get around him and choke him out. He grabs her, yanks him, she gets an arm bar on him. He's able to grab her, easily overpower her, has her by the throat, and holds her out in front of him laughing. Gives her time to pull a gun and shoot him in the mouth. She shoves the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger and blows his head off. I mean, just start with that. Don't give me the whole she's a huge, martial artist, ninja, person who's able to take out trained assassins without any kind of background. If it was that easy, there would never be assassins because anybody could do it. Give a 6-year-old a pellet gun and apparently they'll just go on a John Wick rampage. Enough of this already. All authors that are listening to this, stop it. Your character needs to have foundation built in order to justify this. Otherwise, you've created a Mary or Marty Sue, and it's insulting. It's 2022. Enough of this already. We're better than this. So Scout gets away and is able to use public transportation. She gets into a cab, she gets into a subway, and she's able to use public transportation without any kind of virtual currency or being traced. There's nothing. They're able to trace everyone else, but since she doesn't use cybernetics, she doesn't have any in her, they're not able to trace her, and apparently her money isn't attached to anything that can be traced, which seems like a huge oversight, but is what it is. So a news story. So she's escaping in this taxi cab, and of course there's a screen in the cab that's showing a news story that's pertinent to her situation because, yeah, the author has to get it through somehow, and the news story shows some state-controlled media site, which it's the same reporter and everything that's been in the whole thing. I guess it's the only one that they have hired at this place. And he's telling them a news story about how the CEO of this evil corporation that they just infiltrated was found guilty of crimes against humanity by adding mind control and tracing or tracking chips into the cybernetics they were selling people without their consent or knowledge. Seems like a bit of an issue. That seems a little felonious. Granted, it's 530 years in the future. Maybe the laws have gotten a little bit more lenient when it comes to mind control and tracking of individuals, but nothing said about that, so I'm going to assume that this is a no-no. No big deal. No big deal. That finding is ignored by literally all of society. No real punishment for the CEO either. He has a fine. This is all in the book. Literally, the reporter that Scout talks to about this, when she gets in to see him, and she gets in to see him no problem, by the way, just says, oh, that's all circumstantial. It doesn't really mean anything. And it was just a fine. It's not like he's in any real trouble. So, if you make it to the year 2550, just know that if you want to do mind control stuff and can pay the fine, is it really legal? Or illegal? Really? So anyway, the news report calls him a former CEO of this corporation, but later on in the story, he's the CEO again. So a little bit of a plot hole there that needs to go back and get shored up. Either he is the CEO or he's not. You can't have it both ways. So Scout goes to the media building because, yes, and wants to see the TV reporter that's been on the TV that she's seen multiple times now, a real popular and famous and well-known TV reporter, because it's just that easy. And quite literally it is. She goes to the front desk, wants to talk to the reporter. The front desk person goes, putting you through now. And it takes a few minutes of conversation where she makes ridiculous, outlandish claims that the reporter doesn't believe, but then says, you have 10 minutes, and lets her up into his office, no problem. This person that this reporter thinks is crazy goes, you have 10 minutes to convince me, and lets her up, no problem. Also, there's absolutely no metal detectors, weapon detection, cybernetic detection, nothing like that in this media facility whatsoever. I'm no expert. I'll give you that 100%. It is a fantasy story, a science fiction story. It's 530 years in the future, but I would like to believe that they're going to have some sort of weapon detection system at this facility. They have them now. So Scout gets up there with her gun, no problem, pulls it on the reporter instantly and says, just look at the reports I brought you, which of course he does, and he reads through it and he's like, oh wow, golly gee whiz, this is real, you found proof. And who walks into the office but Ocean, because surprise, surprise, she's not really dead. She's a mind-controlled, cybernetic, ex-military assassin for the big evil corporation who blows away the reporter and turns to shoot Scout, who shoots the gun out of her hand because Scout is now Janet Wick. I don't even know what to tell you. And she shoots the gun out of Ocean's hand. Ocean dives back out because now that she's been disarmed from standing out in the middle of nowhere and wasn't able to shoot Scout before Scout was able to shoot at her gun, Scout runs over to the window, shoots out the window, throws herself out of the window of this high-rise to shoot out the ceiling of a glass elevator that just happens to be there, falls into the elevator, and makes her escape. Super convenient. Like, there's no setup for this whatsoever. A couple of lines of saying, hey, Scout noticed as she walked in that there was the elevator that she took up. Interesting architectural choice to leave an exposed ceiling elevator like that. Real simple, real quick. Instead of just convenience, now it seems to have a little bit more of a basis of a foundation, but none of that is created. It's just the escape route is there. There might as well have been an elevator attached to this reporter's office that only allowed Scout to use it, because that's basically what happened. So they run off. There's more assassins that come after Scout. She's able to kill and stop all of them without taking any damage herself because, again, she's Janet Wick and somebody killed her dog. It turns out Ocean is mind-controlled, except for when she's not. The cybernetics can control her actions and make her do things, but she has some way of fighting against it, I guess just using the power of friendship. So she doesn't quite kill Scout. It feels like maybe the author just painted themselves into a corner and needed willpower to win out on this one. So Scout's able to escape, get away, and as they're running away, she ends up on another high-rise building, fighting Ocean again, and she again, no problem, is able to get a hold of Ocean and choke her out, knock her unconscious, and then freaks out because she knocked her unconscious, which gives Ocean enough time to wake up and literally thunder kick Scout off of the top of a high-rise building. Scout falls. Nothing stops her except for when she crashes through the roof of a taxi a la Fifth Element. And just like in Fifth Element, although the Fifth Element was the Fifth Element, Scout, as far as we know, is just a normal young woman. and she's fine. She wakes up in the hospital with amnesia because that's an author's best friend. Totally fine. She's in a little bit of pain, but they've given her a bunch of cybernetics, which she's very grateful for. The CEO tells her, you know, yep, you work for us. We're really sorry that happened. You fell off the roof doing routine maintenance. Ocean here is an associate of yours and a friend, and we're just here to make sure you feel better. Well, Scout gets a bad feeling about Ocean and refuses to come back to work for the CEO. So the CEO leaves angry, yells at Ocean when they're back in the car, and then activates Scout with a mind control device, and that's how the story ends. It's disappointing. Like I said, the story starts off strong. It's interesting. It's well written. The dialogue is there. Everything is there. And by the end of the story, it's so amateur hour, it's kind of insulting to read. It's really disappointed. There's a lot of plot holes, but it further disappoints me because I see the potential in this one. I really, really do, and I really hope that the author goes back and gives this story the passion and attention that it deserves. So like I said, the reason I give this story 2.5 stars is because I enjoyed portions of it, but I was aggravated by others. It's not that I disliked the story. I did, but I feel like there's something bigger here. There's a 4-star story minimum here if the author would just go back and give it the attention and passion that it really deserves. But again, don't necessarily take my word for it. Go check it out. The link to it is in the description below. Read it yourself and let me know what you think. Come back in the comment section. Let me know if you think I'm full of it or if I hit the nail on the head or anywhere in between. I would love to have a conversation about this. And that's it. That's it for this review. Another one is in the history books. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get something out of it. I hope the authors take some of my advice and at least consider the rest. As always, though, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. And as always, thanks.